Guys, before jumping to the break, we did see what is a function, how you can create it. So, what exactly is a reference when it comes to the function name? So, we get to see the hash code. So, we can copy the reference in some other name and we can use the other name to execute the same function as well. Now, I'm going to create another Python module or Python file. Let's say session 5b. So coming here, I will print one of the built-in variables. So this built-in variable is known as underscore underscore name underscore underscore. Let us print underscore underscore name underscore underscore. So this is a double underscore variable, a built-in variable in Python, right? So let's print a built-in variable in Python and see its value, right? So we'll see the value of this guy. So this says underscore underscore main underscore underscore. So what you get as an output is underscore underscore main underscore underscore. So why it is saying that the name is main, right? So this actually means what? So when we print the name, we get output as main. So what exactly this means? Consider you are writing few lines of code here. So I'll say this is instruction 1, this is instruction 2, this is instruction 3. So you got 3 instructions which you have written and you execute your program. So you see the output one by one in a sequence. So first of all, line number 2 was executed, then 6, then 7, and then 8, right? So whatever we write in our Python file, that is script, it gets executed in a sequence. So that is line by line. So how is this actually happening? Let me open this paint and try to take it in a different way. So I got this system. Let's say this is OS running on top of a hardware. Let's say compute unit. This is operating system. This is your compute unit. Now, when your Python application is supposed to be executed on the operating system, right? So let's say on your computer. So we got this some Python program. So let's say myapp.py, some Python application which will be executed. Now, whenever rather any application is executed on the OS, so what happens? There will be a process which will be created. So for any application which gets executed, you will have a process which will be created, right? So what is the process now? So process is running instance of application. So let me try to make you guys understand it in one more way. Whenever your program is in execution phase, we call it a process, right? So the other way of dealing with this definition is program in execution phase is known as process. So what is the process? A running instance of your application or your program in the execution phase. Guys, this process definition I hope is clear. So if I will say this a messages application, this is not running as of now. So we don't have a process called messages running. But this Google Chrome, so this Google Chrome is in running phase. I'm browsing something here. right? So this is running and this is known as a process. So if you see here, so Google Chrome is referred to as a process, and you see the title here, it says process name. It will not say application name. So more of the technical part is what, when your program is in execution phase, you don't say it as program or application, you say it as a process, right? So process will have memory associated, then it will have some process ID, who is the user who is using this process, and what are some threads. These are some more of the tasks which can be discussed later, but we are understanding the point that whenever your application or program is in execution phase, it's a process. Every process will by default have a main thread, or this guy over here is known as main thread. So what is main thread? Main thread represents some instructions to be executed in a sequence. So what is main thread, right? So it represents some instructions which we want to be executed in a sequence. So these are the kind of instructions. Now few instructions can take more time, few can take less time. It totally depends upon what kind of instructions you have written in your program, right? But these instructions, they will be executed in a sequence. So for an example, this is our instruction number 1, let's say I1, and this is our instruction number n, in, right? So from I1 to in, the execution will happen. So guys, are we good to go with what is a process, what is a thread? Thread is supposed to execute the instructions. So what is a main thread? Main thread is the one which is going to execute the instructions. Now in this program here, whatever you are writing, that will be executed by the main thread of our process. So in our program, all the instructions are part of main thread. What does it mean? That is, they will be executed by main thread in a sequence. Guys, can I get a smiley here? So from line number 2 till line number 8, all these programming instructions, they are supposed to be executed by this guy called main thread. So anyone with any query here, guys? Are we all clear? Can I get one acknowledgement as a smiley from all of you? If we are good to go here. So anyone who is finding any challenge, so Lalit, Asim, guys, are we both good to go?
I'll refer your videos actually later, Ishan. I got disconnected, so I just lost it for 5-10 minutes. No problem. I'll refer your videos.
Okay, okay. So Asim, any queries?
Yeah, Ishan, it is okay because since the start of this programming language, we are trying to understand that the Python follows the instructions step by step. So I'm trying to understand how this is correlated to something very important because it's again the same things that the execution is happening step by step. So I'm just trying to understand how it is correlated to something very important.
Yes. So basically, when we are trying to understand this as a fundamental, so we know now whenever program is executed, so whatever you write in your program, that gets executed sequentially one after the other, right? So this is one point here. Now, in many languages, so what happens, that there is something like main. So main means main like a function. So what we can do in Python, we can say define main. So when I say define main, we don't pass any input to this guy. So you can switch all these instructions into the main itself. And then I can say in case underscore underscore name underscore underscore is going to give us this guy called main, then execute the main function. So guys, typically in all the programming languages, we do have a main function. So this guy over here is known as a main function in Python. So we have never ever created a main function in Python, but in all the languages, almost all the languages, you do have something known as main function. We do have it in Python as well, but we need not to create it because by default everything is taken care automatically for us. But anytime if you want, you can write your own main function. You can define the instruction sets and you can check for the name and execute the main. So this is just one quick introduction that in Python programming language, we do have a main function as well, the way we have it in the other languages. So now good to go with everyone. And what is the task of main? What is the task of
Just one
main
more
function? To execute the instructions by the main thread. Yes, please.
Yeah, even if we don't make this main function, and if we create some another function with the same instructions, even then the result would be the same. So sorry, I'm not understanding the sequence of this main function itself, because it is altogether doing the same thing, even which is possible without the main function itself.
See, Asim, what exactly is this, right? So this is a fundamental building process where we understand that whenever a program is executed in the background on the OS level, right? So when your program is getting executed, you get a process. So this is a fundamental, right? So when it comes to fundamental, it's a bit different of the understanding part. So in the fundamental, what we say is the process will have a main thread. The responsibility of the main thread is to execute the instructions in your program. So this is a fundamental how the things happen, right? So how the things happen, this is the way, this is the explanation on that. Now when I'm talking about main thread which executes the program statements, right? So in Python everything is taken care automatically. You create this main or you do not create this main, it will be taken care automatically. So this topic is just to make you guys understand that whatever the instructions you are writing here, whatever you are writing here without even the main, those instructions are taken care by this main thread in the process. Okay, so that is the agenda here to make you guys understand. Now the way other programming languages, let's say C, C++ or Java, so they have a main function. So there you cannot write the statements directly. So there you need to write a main function and then you need to put the statements in them. Same way you can also do it in Python. We do have the same functionality in Python as well. If you want to do it, you can do so, right? So this is how the alignment happens. All right, so now taking a step further. So I think this part is clear that what exactly the main will do for us and what is main function. Yeah, good to go, Sim. Great, great. Now let us understand the next part of functions. What are the arguments which we pass in the function? So let's create a new Python file, session 5c. So here in session 5c, I'm going to write a function. Let's say add numbers. We'll create a very basic function. We'll take three inputs, number one, number two, and number three. And we'll say that the sum is addition of these three numbers. And finally, I will simply say that sum is, so guys, you can even do a return, right? So I'm not doing return here. So if you want, you can do a return as per your requirements. Now, if I want to execute this add numbers, what I can do, I can simply say add numbers and I can pass 10 comma 20, but this will be an error, right? So if you run the code here, this guy says one positional argument number 3 is missing. So you pass this guy as number 3, you run the code, so this works perfectly. Now number 1 is having the value 10, number 2 is having the value 20, and number 3 is having the value 30. So the same statement can also be written in this manner, that number 1 is 11, number 3 is 22, and number 2 is 17. Guys, what is this now? This is kind of a dictionary now, key value pair, right? So which you are passing in add numbers. Number 1 assign 11 means you copy 11 into number 1. Number 3 assign 22 means you copy 22 into number 3, and number 2 assign 17 means you copy 17 into number 2. But if you try to pass number 5, which is not there, and you run the code, you get an error because we don't know what is this number 5, right? So we need to put this guy number 2, which is already there. So this is known as keyword arguments. So you're passing the keywords, right? So you're passing these keywords in your arguments so that we can match which has which value. So other way around in this one, so this is by default, number 1 is 10, number 2 is 20, and number 3 is 30. Now I can try executing this function by skipping this value in the end, and by making sure that if you have not put any value for number 3, let the default value for number 3 be 5. So what does this mean? That if you are not putting any value for number 3, the value will be by default taken as 5. So if you now say 10 comma 20, 10 goes to number 1, 20 goes to number 2, and you don't pass anything for number 3, so it is by default taken as 5. So when you run this program, now what you see, it says sum is 35, right? It has taken this value as 5 for this 10 and 20. At the same time, I can even pass the default values for all the variables in case you want. So now even if you skip any of the inputs, so you have some default values for your function, right? So this is known as default values for our inputs. So guys, can I get a smiley here? So default values. So Vinay, you can say this is very much quite of initialization of the inputs, right? Or the default values. So majorly they fall under the default value section. Consider that you are giving number 1 the default value, but not to the number 2 and not to the number 3. You see, you get an error here. So how the default value rule works? The default value rule works in a way that you need to start from the rightmost and then you go to the leftmost. So if you miss out this guy 3, it's gonna work for us. So right hand side, all the inputs should have the default values. Left hand side is optional, right? So if you give it the other way around, then number 1 is having a value but number 2 is missing, so this is an error. So your right hand side input should have a default value if you are going to give it to the left hand side one, right? So I'm going to write here, this is a rule here. The default value to an input can be given if right input has a default value, right? So if a right input has default value, only then you can give it. Other way around, you cannot give it. But in case of number 3, since it is the rightmost, so there is no guy to the right of it, so it's gonna work for us. Okay, so there are these certain rules which you definitely need to take care of. So anyone with any query here, what are default inputs now? Okay, now let us print hash code of add numbers. So I'll say comma add numbers. So I'll print the hash code. So I'll just print down the name of the function, right? So when you run this code, so it says hash code of add numbers is this value 1006660E18. What's the next thing which I will do? I will perform an update operation on functions. So let us see how it can be done. I'll say define add numbers. I'm redefining the same function, right? So what you are doing is you are redefining the same function. Now you pass number 1, number 2, number 3 and number 4. So your sum goes like adding these 4 numbers rather than the 3 numbers. Now let us see the hash code of add numbers here. Hash code of add numbers now after redefining is. Let us print this and see what it will give us. So what you see, the hash codes, they changed. It means now the old function is gone and you got a new function for you. So if you try to execute the function with 3 inputs, so this will give you an error now. It says number 4 is missing, right? So guys, you need to always understand that functions, they can be redefined, but when you redefine a function, there will be a challenge that the old function is now not in the memory anymore. So hence you cannot use it. So you need to use the new function. And for the new function usage, of course, you need to come up and pass these 4 inputs. So guys, a smiley once again awaited in case we are clear till here. Wonderful. So let us write another Python module. So this goes like my session 5D. Now there can be a problem statement where you need to add n number of inputs. So we specified 3 numbers or 4 numbers, but you don't know how many numbers you need to add. There can be several numbers which you have to add. So I'll create this function called add numbers, and I'll pass this guy called star args. I have just kept this star and then any name. So to be precise, star any name. So args short for arguments. And this guy over here is known as variable arguments in function. Very, very beautiful and a different concept. So you don't know how many arguments we need to pass. So you create this guy as a star args. Now I will print this args and I will also print the type of args. Right? So coming here, execute this add numbers, pass 10, 20. Then execute this 10, 20 and 30, 40 and 50. So now you have a liberty that you can pass any data with any length. So you run the program. So what you see is the args is printed as a tuple. So you executed add numbers twice, and what we see is there are two tuples which gets created automatically. So this guy args is what is a tuple. So when I say star args, this means variable arguments and type becomes tuple automatically for us. So guys, can I get a smiley? So now if I want to sum up, so I can take the sum as 0, and I can say for element in args, sum assign sum plus element, and then finally say print sum is comma sum. So you run the code. So this is going to give you sum as well, 30 and 150. So variable inputs can be passed into a function in case you want. So we call them the variable arguments. And guys, this may not be just the numbers. They can be any other data type as well, right? But the sum operation will not work on that if you're passing, let's say, strings. Same way we created variable arguments, we have one more discussion. So we got these as keyword arguments. So in a keyword arguments, you define your function, let's say fun, and you say star star keyword args, KW args. Once again, name can be any name, but you got these two double stars as in the syntax. So I'll say print quags and print me the type of quags. So how you will execute the function now? So you execute the function in a way A is 10, B is 20, and C is 30. So you give these names and the values. So let us run this program. So what you see is it becomes a dictionary. So A is the keyword, whereas 10 is the value. So key value pair, right? I can even say this function same fun, and I can say, and I can just try putting up in a different way, right? So let's say name is John, comma age is 30, comma email is john at example.com. So if you try to come up and run this code now, so what do you see? Name, age, and email, this becomes the key and this becomes the keys, whereas John 30 and John at example.com is the value. So you get a dictionary. So it's not specific to the data type. But there is a use case. If you try to come up and give the keys as numbers, let's see what happens now. So 10 roll number belongs to John. Let us say 20 belongs to Fiona. Then 30 belongs to, let's say, Mike. So what happens now, right? So when you run this code, you get an error. So what we get is 10 assigned John, 20 assigned Fiona, 30 assigned Mike. They say that it's a syntactical mistake. Keyword cannot be an expression. So here, numbers as your keywords, they are not allowed, right? So this is an error. So when I'm doing functions in Python can be created in different ways. So we do have a reference copy by which we directly change the name. But at the same time, for these functions, right, we can pass various inputs. Those inputs can be classified as variable arguments, or they can be even known as keyword arguments. So it depends upon our requirements, how you want to pass the inputs. So let us club them. So I'm now going to club these two key concepts together. Let's see what we'll get. So let us say define function fun. and say star args comma star star quarks. So we got variable arguments, so kind of tuple, right? So this is a kind of a tuple for us, and keyword arguments together. So these are kind of dictionary for us. So we put a colon here. So what I'll do, I'll just simply print args and then print quarks here, right? So we'll just print these. We are not going to print the type because we already know the type. Let us execute by saying fun. So I'll pass 10, 20, 30, and then I'll pass this guy A as 10, B as 20, and C as 30. So you run this program. So what you see is 10, 20, 30 comes out as a tuple, and A, B, and C, right? So they become the other ones for the quarks. So it is taken care dynamically, right? So from where onward we get these keywords starting, so that becomes the quarks. But what happens if you try to just put 10 here? So this becomes an error now because we don't know what this guy is supposed to be. So guys, any query till here?
So Ishan, basically we have to follow the sequence in which we are printing these function values.
Exactly. So 10, 20, 30 becomes ARGS, whereas 8 and B20, C30 becomes quarks, right? So that's the sequence. The moment
And
you
to
break
be,
the sequence, for example, I broke the sequence here, right? So let's say comma 40, comma 50. And let's say we'll try to say comma hello, right? So the moment you broke the sequence here, you started with the keyword arguments, so this will be automatically taken by the quarks part. So you run the code here. So this is how you get the value. So good to go, see.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ishan.
All right, so let us see the next very crucial concept in functions: value versus reference. So let's say a Python file. This goes like our session 5 G here. So I'll create this function called square of number, and I'll take one input as number. So I will say number is number multiplied by number, and then I'll say print number now is comma number, and putting up here number is comma number, and let's say, and hash code will also print the hash code here, comma hex of id of number. Same way I'll print the hash code here as well. So there is this guy called num whose value is 11. So I'll say print num is, so I'll take this same guy. So we'll use num is num and hash code is hex id of num. So if I will run this program, so this will just say that num is 11 and hash code is this value, right? So I'll just change the pattern here. So just put some stars here. Okay, so just to begin with, so we got number as 11 and this is the hash code. Let us quickly draw it in the memory, right? So we'll see how the things will flow in the memory here. So we have this guy, the hash code here. This is the hash code for this guy called num, and in the num what you have is 11. So this hash code is available in this. Okay, so this is not num, so my bad. So num is this guy below. So num is having this hash code for 11, and this is how the reference variable concept will come into action. So guys, can I get a smiley? This we have already discussed in our very initial sessions. What exactly is this, right? The data storage part. Right. So what is the next thing now? The next thing is where I'm going to write this function called square of number, and I will pass this kind num here. Now when I pass this num here, so let's see how this function gets executed. So when you run the program, now what we have to see is that the number is 11 and its hash code is same, right? So coming here, so the same way you got this guy num, so we have this same guy number. So both of them, they will have the same hash code. So they are pointing to this same location, right? So this fellow is number. We have checked the hash code, right guys? So when you are executing this code, what do you see is that the number is also 11 and its hash code is exactly same which you passed here in the num. Num and number is same. But when you said number assign number into number, so data gets manipulated. So now the value becomes a 121. So which has a different hash code. So this was the first step. In the second step, what happened? In the second step, this link got broken, and the hash code is now different for this fellow. So the hash code now is changed, it's modified. So what we got? We got some other memory location where this container has 121 in it. And this fellow will point here. So guys, now number has manipulated its structure. Num is still pointing to the previous 11, but number is now pointing to 121. So this link was broken somehow, right? So this link was a previous link, so this is now broken. So that's why if I will come here and say num now is, so it will remain the same. Number will not change. I mean, num will not change. This guy will still remain same on the same hash code. Is this concept clear, guys? What we have done here? Wonderful. Anyone with any queries, they can please raise the same. Wonderful, guys. Thank you. Now, let me try to create a similar program. But this time we are going to do in a different way. Let's see how. I'll take the input as numbers and I'll say nums is a list. So I do have a list here now. So this list goes like 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. Some numbers as a list. So I'll say nums is nums and the hash code is hex ID of nums. So this method is also square of numbers, in which I will pass these nums. So same way I'll say numbers is numbers and hash code is hex ID of numbers. So let me come here and execute this program first. So nums is 13579 and the hash code is 10 some triple two 5648. Same way numbers is 13579 and the hash code is 10 222 5648. Guys, is this clear to everyone? So what is happening here for us? So this time you are not passing a single value container, you are passing a multi-value container. There's a difference now. So in the previous case, what we were doing was, here we were passing single value, but here what you are doing is you are passing multi-value, right? Let us try to represent these nums in the memory. So this was our before and after use case when we were doing it with the single value container part. Now what I have is, I have this guy called nums, which is pointing to a location, and this location is going to have indexes. Okay, so I got one more, so I'll just eliminate this. So this is the hash code available in this guy called nums, and this hash code is available here. And what are these are indexes: 0 1 2 3 and 4. So these are indexes, and on these indexes we have data coming up, right? So on top of these indexes you have data. What is the data? So the data is 13579, but how this data will be stored? So guys, we got storage containers. So this is 1 3 5 7 and 9. Now all of these single value containers, they will have their hash code. So I'm just assuming the hash codes. Let's say 1001, 2001, 3001, 4001, or let's say 4001 is this guy, and so this guy is some 5001. So I'm just considering some hash codes. So this is 7 and this is 9. So here what we have, 1001, then 2001, 3001, yes, 4001, and last one is 5001. So moving ahead, we got these references like this. So this is how the list is getting stored in the memory. So guys, is this storage clear to everyone? So I'm not printing the hex ID of zeros. So what I'm saying is, so if I want, I can say print me. So you can just have a look here. What I'll do, I'll say nums of 0 is nums of 0 and hex ID of nums of 0. So I'm not printing this part. So this will give me a different hash code values. So slowly and slowly, once you will proceed 1 and 2 and you run this code here, so you find these different hash codes coming up for you, num 0 1 2, right? So these are some different hash codes for us. So just one quick introduction on that these indexes, they will hold hash codes of these values. So guys, nums is pointing here, and further each and every index is pointing to the storage container with the data. Can I get a smiley from all of you? Is this storage container structure clear to everyone? Wonderful. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a loop here. So I'll say for I in range 0 to length of numbers, and what I will do is I will say numbers of I assign numbers of I multiplied by numbers of I. So what are we doing here? So once we do this, we'll also print down numbers now is comma numbers, and hash code is comma hex of id of numbers. So what we are trying to do here now, we are multiplying the number at the index, right? And we are squaring the number at the index. So what will happen now? What's going to happen? And one more thing which I missed, I'm just going to write here that nums and numbers are two different variables, but they hold the same hash code. So this guy numbers was from the function, right? So they are pointing to the same location. So this guy numbers here and nums here, they point to the same location, right? Now when I'm going to run this loop, so we are squaring every single number. So this 1 gets squared to 1, 3 gets to 9, 5 gets to 25, 7 gets to 49, and 9 gets to 81. So what happens now is, so this becomes before and after part now. So here 1 remains 1, but this guy 3 gets changed, 5 will change, 7 will change, and 9 will also change. So when they will change, so we have the values, 3 becomes 9, 1 remains 1 only. So thereafter you get 25, 49, and 81. Of course, when these containers will change, their hash code will change. So this hash code will now not remain same. It will remain same for 1, because 1 into 1 is 1 itself, but it will change here, right? So let's say some new hash codes which are generated, they are like this: 1101, 2101, then 3101, and 4101. So you got 1101, and then you got 2101, then we got 3101, and we got 4101. nums and numbers, they still point to the same location. What is getting changed? The content on their indexes is getting changed. There's a difference, guys, right? So content on their indexes is getting changed. So it means what? If you will run this program, so what you see is numbers before and after. Let us do a check here. Numbers was this 13579. The hash code was 25648. Numbers now is 19254981, but its hash code did not change. Very, very beautiful concept here. Same way, after the execution of function, if I will print down these numbers, guys, what you will see as a magic, that numbers are also manipulated. So nums and numbers, their hash code will not change, but the content in them will change. And of course, now if you will print the hash code of numbers 0 and 1 before and after. So let's run this code. So what you see is the 0th guy is same, right? But this first index guy, which was 9C0, 8D9C0, is now 8DA80. So hash code is manipulated. So the same proof of concept here. So always remember, if you are passing a list or a multi-value container to a function, you manipulate these numbers, below nums will also be manipulated for you automatically, because nums and numbers, they were pointing to the same location. But when you are passing it like a value here, a single value container, so if number will be manipulated, num will not be manipulated. Two different concepts, guys, here. So anyone having any query here now, guys? So this will be all for the day, what we have to take in as a discussion. So now we can discuss the queries, guys. So Vinay, Asim, Lalit, and Pradeep.
Good till now, Ishant will go through again whatever we have done today, and then we'll get back.
All right. So Pradeep, Asim, and Vinay, guys, queries.
Ishant, first we'll go through this video again, like Lalit said, and then we'll come back with the queries.
Done, done. I think this might be a session where this thing in the end would have, added some complexity, but at the same time, if you understand that how the data is going to be stored in the memory, so then only we'll be able to understand this key concept. So typically, if you have a list, you have some data, and you pass it into a function manipulated the list, so the original list will also be manipulated. So this you need to understand. All right, so guys, I
Right.
think you guys should be reviewing the videos now. So
Yeah.
so this will be all from my side for the day. So let me just stop.